Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
So, Chris, we've had a few days since the big trade, and it turns out Anthony Davis was actually traded to the Mavericks. It was not just a promo for his incoming prank show, which is the only way that any of this makes any logical sense, was if this was all a ruse for his upcoming prank show.
So we recorded on Sunday. One of the things we said in that episode was, all right, it's going to be interesting to see what we learn in the next 48 hours because we are obviously going to be recording on Tuesday morning. Since that time, I watched Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd's press conference that afternoon.
Yes, did I. Yes, did I.
Few things. Nico Harrison admitted that Rob Pelinka thought he was trolling him. Nico Harrison said the owner of the Mavericks laughed at him when he brought the trade up. Nico Harrison said that Luka didn't want out and didn't indicate he wouldn't re-sign. Nico Harrison also said, the money quote, the future to me is 3 or 4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, I don't know. They'll probably bury me and J Kidd by then, or we'll bury ourselves. It was a disaster. I don't know how you could have had a great press conference after this trade, but as I was watching it, this is what struck me, and then I want to hear what you thought. As I was watching it, because you are constantly trying to come up with ideas or trying to make sense of something that seems nonsensical. It dawned on me as I was watching it. Oh my God. This guy thinks it's him. He thinks he's responsible. He thinks he's the reason the Dallas Mavericks were in the finals.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks that they have had this level of success because he's the general manager and because of this thought process that him and Jason Kidd have. He thinks it's him, right? Like when I said on Sunday, how does nobody stand up when they're grousing about his conditioning, when they're grousing about his lack of defense and getting blown by in the NBA Finals? How does nobody stand up in the meeting or somebody with some sense and say, whoa. You're missing the big picture. We're not in the finals if we don't have him. You can bitch about the way he played in the finals, but understand the only reason we are having this success is because we have a guy who, yes, we need to have him take time off to get conditioned. Yes, we don't love his off-the-court habits, but also, hey, guys, he averaged last year 34 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists, and was third in MVP voting and led the team to the finals. Like, that all happened too. And so you're kind of missing the forest for the trees here. And I left that press conference going, wow, I've covered ownership changes. I've covered general manager changes. And one of the things that is true is you always find they always want their own people. Anytime there is an ownership change, anytime there is a general manager change, coach needs to watch out, roster needs to watch out, right? Because they want to be responsible for it. In the end, they want to be responsible for it. But this one is the most unbelievable of all, and this is why this has been the constant talk for the last 48 hours, is because this is so much beyond I want total credit for everything. But I can't separate myself from what I watched, which was me watching that press conference going, wow, bro, you really think it's you. You think it's your genius. You do. You think
this is
your
ego.
genius.
This is hubris.
Yes.
This is Icarus flying too close to the sun. This is him being celebrated by people like us. And I celebrated Nico last year too, because what was the story of the Mavericks? The moves they made at and before the trade deadline that brought them from 12th best defense in the league to 5th best defense in the league and brought them to the NBA Finals. They beat the Timberwolves. They beat the Thunder. And this is the genius of former Nike executive Nico Harrison. And what you are saying is that success, when you have the level of success they had last year and you're in Nico's position, it allows you wiggle room. It allows you rope. It gives you a runway. You're not on the hot seat. And you're saying that this environment and his confidence and his ego led him to make this move. I do not completely agree with that.
I also think you don't completely agree. I also think, no. This is the other thing I think. I think it's twofold. I also think, because I read Ramona Shelburne and Tim McMahon's long article about the whole situation. And one of the things that stood out to me that I do not think is talked about enough is the level of closeness that Pelinka and Harrison has been well documented.
If you didn't read the article, they were like 2003. Yeah, like joint family vacations, the passing of Kobe. Yeah.
But here's what I will say. And well chronicled that even through his young 20s, Nico was a Kobe guy. That this is a uniquely bad combination of the way one guy thinks and the way another guy thinks. And so Nico Harrison sees things through the prism of the guy that gets up at 4:30 in the morning and is drenched in sweat before everybody else gets up. Therefore, has a greater level of resent towards the guy that does not condition himself and wants a celebratory beer. Because to him, he, for 20 years, was around someone who took it so much further than everyone else. Like, you can't take it more seriously than Kobe Bryant.
This is interesting. I haven't heard this angle yet. You're saying that the dedication of Kobe Bryant and his well-documented and chronicled sort of conditioning habits and first one in, last one to leave, that environment and that relationship between Nico and Kobe has sort of muddied the water and expectations for him and his players, that he feels like that is the approach that an NBA basketball player should have. Therefore, when you have Luka Doncic, who does not have that approach,
like the complete
opposite. He sees a bigger problem than most because of his relationship with Kobe. That's what you're saying?
That's what, and again, I might be
wrong. I applaud you
for
giving me a fresh take on this. This is new. I like it.
Well, I read the article, and it was like a light bulb went off. And because you're trying to make sense of the nonsensical. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh God. Oh boy. This is a guy that was around Kobe all the time. You can't be more polar opposites in approach. So the level of resent towards the way a superstar treats his career is so much greater to a guy that spent his whole life with Kobe. That's what I would say.
Interesting.
That's what I would say.
I also feel
and by the way, let me just say, that does not justify it. I'm only trying to come up with, why does he not feel the way we do?
Well,
why?
I think here's a couple things I expected to happen between Sunday morning and literally right now. I expected more information about the relationship between Doncic and the Mavericks to come out. I also expected us to learn that more human beings knew about these discussions than we were told on Sunday morning. However, I sit right here on Tuesday morning, and I honestly think that this was kept quiet. I think LeBron James was actually in the dark on this, as was Luka Doncic. We have since learned from, shout to Chandler Parsons, love that guy, that Doncic just bought a $15 million house. And another thing we learned is this is some sound I really want to play you, okay? Because Sasa Doncic, Luka's dad, did an appearance on Serbian television, and here's what he had to say.
Pridejo momenti, ker se ne strinjam z neko filozofijo, ne paše ti ta igralec, ne paše ti tisti igralec. Vse to lepo in prav, ampak mislim, da glih ta neka tajnost.
So what he said right there is, fuck the Mavericks. They're hypocrites. They're liars. And I hate those guys. And Luka did not deserve this. That is basically what he said, which makes me feel like this literally did come from nowhere.
You Google translated it?
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, word for word. Yeah, I speak Serbian.
Yeah, I mean, we did have. I think we're all waiting for the, as Brian Curtis always talks about, the now you tell us. Like, here comes the notebook dump on every reason that this happened and the real story behind. Yes. Like that. The real reason that video is going around of Michael Finley taking the beer away from Luka Doncic is because they talk to him all the time and they could just never get the guy to stop drinking. And they,
what's wrong with a beer after a game?
I don't think
I've played basketball without having a beer after the game in my entire life.
What I'm saying is you're waiting for them to tell you the dastardly things.
It hasn't happened.
Would make you believe that this makes some kind of sense, where you would at least read it and you would go, I mean, like as you tried to defend on Sunday, that they know their guy better than everyone else.
Anybody else. The Dallas Mavericks and the people in that organization know Luka Doncic as a human and a basketball player better than everybody else in the National Basketball Association. They do.
So the idea would be, and I heard Amin El-Hassan, I saw a clip of him talking about this.
Shout to him.
And he said, think about how insane it would have been in year 2 for the Pelicans to get rid of Zion Williamson. Now, in retrospect, not shorting that.
Brilliant.
Right? Shorting that would not have been. And so the idea then is like you want it to be the same. You want it to, now again, Zion Williamson was nowhere near as accomplished as Luka Doncic, but why? That's what everybody wants to know. Everybody accepts, in the words of Tim Bontemps, this is the biggest short in NBA history. What we still do not have a great explanation for is why. Why are you shorting this stock? Why? Because we do not accept you can bring up conditioning. He's 5-time all NBA first team. He just led a team to the finals. Last year, he was 3rd in MVP voting. Like, the results are the results, no matter his conditioning. So that's outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the contract thing, to your point, he just bought a $15 million house. And in Nico Harrison's own words, he said, yeah, there's teams loaded up to get him in the future. Like, trying to throw that out there while also saying there's been no inclination that he ever wanted to be out of Dallas or that he wouldn't re-sign a
all
supermax.
Indications are that he was happy to stay in Dallas.
Right.
Happy.
Even indications by him. By all accounts, he was stunned and couldn't believe it.
Well, Sasa's pissed. Sasa Doncic is pissed.
Well, look, as with every NBA story, the best person to go to find out if you want something unfiltered, the best person to ask is Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards.
So Anthony Edwards was asked about the Luka trade, and here's what he had to say.
They say that nobody knew about the trade. Yeah, so that's crazy. At 25, they traded probably the best scorer in the NBA at 25. And he didn't know about it. So it's a lot more digging somebody got to do to find out why he got traded. Because you don't just trade him at 25. He just went to the finals, you know what I'm saying? So I feel bad for Luka, man, because I saw some on YouTube that say he just bought a crib and everything in Dallas. So that sucks, man. That sucks.
Does it inform, like,
everybody?
You at 23.
Everybody get informed,
I was
yeah.
going to say, like,
I'm scared.
How you see the league.
Yeah, I'm scared. Tim, hey, if you're going to trade me, let me know, dog. When Luka got traded, anybody is able to get traded.
And remember, his best teammate just got traded like 4 months ago.
Tim, if you're going to trade me, let me know.
Let me know. Just let me know.
The other angle to this that we did not get to talk about on Sunday is, and this has been documented in some of the reporting that has come out as follows, is this whole Jazz being involved and Danny Ainge had 30 minutes notice and it was too late to do anything, where Utah was going to get 2 second-round picks and Jordan Hood-Schifino, like they were going to be taking on that contract.
What is this? I don't understand the Jazz involvement in this at all.
Well, I mean, it was just it was a money thing, right? Like, hey, we need a third team in order to facilitate this money-wise. Yeah. But, I mean, the real sliding doors moment is, like, there's no way Danny Ainge helps this to take place.
At some point, Danny Ainge got a phone call that was like, wait. What now? I'm helping the Lakers get Luka Doncic? Can I not do that? And they're like, no, Danny, you cannot do that.
No, they just didn't tell him.
Yeah.
They were like, look, here's the deal. We've got a deal coming. I can't tell you who it is, but you're going to get Jordan Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round
and we
picks.
need $55,000, which is what he gave up.
All right, deal.
Sure.
I cannot imagine his face when they said, oh, yeah, and it's part of – we've got to call the deal in, and he's got to, like, be his part. He's like, bro, what?
It's just like,
oh, my God. You son of a bitch. There's no way. No, I don't want it anymore. They're like, sorry, too late.
Jordan,
you already said, cool, dude. Sorry. I cannot imagine that he, like, because they obviously don't want it out and they don't want anybody to stop it. But they just kind of said, hey, like, look, we've got a deal. Here's your end of it. And here's what you're going to get. And then by the time they told him what the deal was, it was too late. Like he had already said. Yeah, fine. We'll be involved.
And also what has happened, it just feels like the Kevin Garnett anything is possible statement. Because since Sunday, we were talking about maybe Zach LaVine gets traded. Maybe De'Aaron Fox. And usually when we talk about these big names heading into the deadline, it ends up being Time Lord who gets traded. And just like these little moves around the peripheral. But now, since Sunday, now we got LeBron James going to Golden State. We got Kevin Durant going to Golden State. We got LeBron James and Kevin Durant going to Golden State. We got Jimmy Butler going to Phoenix. We get I don't know, is Shaquille O'Neal going to come out of retirement? Like, what? It's like, it just seems like everything is now on the table to happen in the next week. Anything could happen.
One thing that did happen, as we'll get to all the rumors, was the De'Aaron Fox deal, where the Spurs got De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin, and the Kings got Zach LaVine, Sidi Sissoko, and 3 different first-round picks. They also got 3 different second-round picks. And the Bulls are involved in this. And they got Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter.
Red Velvet.
And their own 2025 pick back from the Spurs.
So just like, if you're the Chicago Bulls, you're like, all right, Zach LaVine, he's gone. What do we get back? Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter? What? Make that make sense. Like, that makes almost less sense than the Mavs deal.
How did they get, like, at least the Kings got a bunch of stuff. Like, if you're moving De'Aaron Fox, you got an awesome player and a bunch of picks.
A ton of picks. I mean, again, not all picks are created equal.
The Bulls got crap.
It's wild. It's
wild. Not even a starter.
Oh, no. I don't think they got a rotation player.
They didn't even get a starter.
Zach Collins? I guess. I don't understand this.
Who is he starting for?
Somewhere the Bulls fans are just like, well, at least we're not Mavs fans. This was in Chicago. They're just like, it could be worse. We could have just traded Luka Doncic.
So I saw San Antonio in person last night.
Mm-hmm.
Wemby was coming back from being ill, but he was awesome nonetheless. He is still, I would encourage anybody that is out there, if he is coming to your town, he is at the very, very top of my list of something that you need to see in person. Like, it is something to behold. But I could not watch that game without thinking about the future and what is going to happen with this team now that they have made the De'Aaron Fox acquisition. And I got to tell you, after watching them last night, I was like, oh boy. Like, if the whole idea is, we talked about Nico Harrison shorting the Luka Doncic experience in LA, the best long position in the world to me would be the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love Fox. I love him. I've always loved him. I've loved him. I saw De'Aaron Fox walk into Memphis in the NCAA tournament, and it was the huge showdown. It was going to be De'Aaron Fox versus Lonzo Ball. And this was the team that had Fox and Monk and Adebayo and a group of those guys, that Kentucky team. And when I tell you De'Aaron Fox emasculated this guy, I'm talking, it was one of NBA, college, high school, you name it, one of the best basketball performances I've ever seen in my life. And so from that moment on, I was like, give me this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, he went through ups and downs in Sacramento. I realize he's a one-time All-Star. I shouldn't talk about him like he's a 10-time All-Star, but he is right in the middle of his prime. And when I think about him and Wemby together, buddy, you don't have much. You just gotta fill out those other few positions. And I love Castle. Watching him last night.
They didn't have to give him up, or Vassell, or they didn't really give up any of their rotation guys.
It's just a heist, truly. A heist.
Sohan is still there? Like, I don't understand how they bring in De'Aaron Fox and don't really lose anything of material.
Not even Keldon Johnson.
Who I love. Keldon Johnson will dunk on you, by the way. He will dunk on you.
Keldon Johnson is like 30 pounds lighter this year. Like, he's evidently gotten a chef and taken everything seriously,
Luka Doncic,
and whatever else. But
Luka Doncic needs to get on that plan.
I think
if you're the Spurs, if you are the Spurs, you're saying to yourself, we've got the 5 figured out. We've got the 1 figured out. 2, 3, 4, I need defenders and shooters. That's it. I need defenders and shooters. That's it. Just give me defenders and shooters, and this is over. If they get like true good wing defense, and De'Aaron Fox is never going to make an all-defensive team, which is fine. But if you get wing defenders that can switch and they can play perimeter defense, you've got rim protection is done. We've got an 8-foot-tall French guy who's just going to stand in the middle. If they get true perimeter defense and shooters, it's like this is a championship contender in like 2026, 27.
Devin Vassell said last night, we probably got 10 times better. I mean, and we will see how much better they are the rest of the way. So they've played 47 games. That means they've got 35 left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they got 35 games
21
left.
And 26.
They are, after last night.
What are you doing? Are you putting them in the finals? What are you doing now? Are you putting them in the playoffs?
No. That's what I'm asking you. Hold on. Let me.
What are you doing?
Flush it out. They are 3.5 back from Dallas, which is 8, and they are 3 back of Sacramento, Phoenix, and Golden State. The question is, can San Antonio, with Fox, for the last 35 games of the season, play 3 games better than 2 of those teams? That would get them into the play-in.
They can.
That's what they have to do. From here on out, I'm saying they're not look, they're sitting now at 12. Okay. So they need to play 3 games better than their peers that are ahead of them with 35 games left. And so, and that's in order to get into a position where they're in a play-in. I'm saying even to 10, even to 9, right?
I think that if you are the Spurs, you say to yourself, we would love to be in the play-in. We would love to get Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox, our new point guard, some playoff-level experience. And we have no designs on contending. We have no designs of even going to the second round of the playoffs. But just getting some of that experience, finishing the season like the Rockets did last year, and just getting some momentum as a franchise and developing chemistry and strategy between Fox and Wemby, those are your goals.
But what I'm saying is, Jacoby, let's say they get to like 9 or 10, right? So as it stands right now, if you're 7 or 8, you got to play in that thing. Like if you're Minnesota or Dallas, that's a nightmare. This is the team that you now you got to see Wembanyama and Fox.
And
that's
Fox?
who you got to beat. Like, I mean, that sucks.
Well, it's interesting
It
because
makes them so much more interesting if they get to that moment.
And not only that is, and this is a wild overreaction, the Blazers can't be beat right now.
Oh, my God.
They're behind the Spurs. Like they might get overtaken by the Blazers. 5 through 12 in the West is just mind-boggling.
The Portland thing feels like the Utah thing last year.
It's
which is now you're going to see them. Like the value has been built up. The value's been built up of a lot of those guys. You know that going forward, you would think theoretically you're building around a core of Scoot and Shaedon Sharp
and DeAndre
and Klingon
and MVP
right?
candidate DeAndre Ayton.
No, you're building
Did you
around
see
that.
Ayton last night?
I understand, but this is it. But the best possible thing, much like what happened with Utah, is to build that up. The year that Mike Conley got traded, the year that right, like you can move off these guys. So now, like your future is not these vets that have been playing, whether it's Jeremy Grant, whether it's Ayton, whether it's Time Lord,
Simons,
Anthony Simons. Like that's not the future. But have those guys built up their stock enough that you can get some really good stuff for the future from them? Have they become guys that you can now get a first-round pick for, or multiple first-round picks for, or good young players coming back that fit more of your timeline that is with the Scoot, Sharp, Kamara, Klingon.
Love Kamara.
That
Love
time.
Kamara.
Yeah.
It is interesting because if you look at the 5 through 12 in the West is Lakers, Clippers, Wolves, Mavs, Kings, Suns, Warriors, Spurs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All of those teams are trying to get better in the next week via trade to make a run.
Yep.
All of them. Every single one. And it's going to be interesting to see which of those teams end up dramatically better a week from today. Because they can't all improve. There's just not enough assets out there.
Some of the trade rumors that are bopping around, and I will say that this week is always a very strange week for outcomes in the NBA. I've been in many locker rooms. All of these guys are on Hoops Hype. All of these guys are on social media. All of these guys are scrolling on their phone. They're talking to their agents. They're stressed out about them going home and their girlfriend or wives or whoever, like, am I going to have to change schools? Am I going to have to sell the house? Am I going to have to, right? There's a large percentage of the league, which even became I must tell you, a much greater percentage of the league, because once there is something as shocking as the Doncic-Davis deal takes place, then much in the words of Anthony Edwards,
who's safe?
Who's safe?
I was
right?
reading about LeBron James. Like
I know
LeBron came out with a statement. Like there was an actual like news article that was like LeBron James is going to stay with the Lakers. I read that and I was like, is that's where we are in the year of our Lord 2025, February 4th? We have to come out with a statement saying LeBron James is going to stay with the Lakers.
For me, for you, for everybody that covers the NBA, but I'm also telling you, players in the association, you pull up Hoops Hype this morning and you're scrolling through, you are going to see a news item about Paul George and about the Hawks and the Warriors calling about Paul George.
Yep.
You're going to see a story about the Bucks and, I guess they're not in the Jimmy Butler thing, but now there's some tread on the maybe Kyle Kuzma, Mark Stein.
Well, apparently Nico called about Giannis. Apparently, there's reporting that Nico called up and said, hey, how about Giannis for Doncic? And the Bucks were like, nah, we're good.
Kevin Durant's name is right at the top of Hoops Hype.
Going to the Warriors.
Is Phoenix taking calls on Kevin Durant? And then there is, in that same Stein report, that the Suns might have a level of interest in Kuminga.
What?
And then it's like, wait, what?
What?
Hold on.
You trade Kevin Durant for Kuminga?
And then you have Jimmy Butler doesn't want to play for any. Like he literally only wants to play for Phoenix.
Jimmy Butler's like, what about me, guys? What about me? What about me?
My favorite one is the Jimmy Butler has made it clear he wouldn't re-sign with the Warriors or some crap like that. It felt exactly like the Doc Rivers has interviewed in Phoenix, but they're not going to hire him.
Yes.
And then he's like, Doc Rivers has pulled his name out of consideration.
Yes.
Like, okay.
I have pulled my name out of consideration for People Magazine's Sexiest Man of the Year. I'm just making that official right now.
That's what Jimmy Butler pulling himself out of consideration.
Well,
it was already reported that the Warriors don't want you.
Jimmy Butler went from, I will literally play anywhere but Miami. Remember that? That was like literally, it was reported that he would play anywhere but here. Anywhere. And then it was, hell no, I'm not going to Memphis.
I'm not going to Milwaukee.
Oh, I'm not going to Golden State. No, I will only re-sign with the Phoenix Suns. What?
Yep.
What?
I don't know.
Does Jimmy Butler even get traded at this point? He must, right? He must.
You would think so.
But where? Where?
I mean, you don't want to hear my idea.
Put him in Memphis.
No.
Put him in Memphis.
No, you can't have him.
I do want to hear your idea. And the fact that you said I don't want to hear it makes me want to hear it more. What's your stupid idea about Jimmy Butler? Anything is on the table. They just traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and Max Christie. So your idea can't be worse than that.
As soon as I saw those reports of, hey, people are calling about Kevin Durant, I went, Memphis called and tried to get a deal done with Brooklyn when that all took place. And then they tried to get a deal done for Mikal Bridges when that all took place. When that all was going on, It's like, okay, well, we would have gotten in the, right?
And GFS, they've been trying to get everybody from Brooklyn.
They talked to him about Durant. And then they talked to him about Bridges. Okay?
And DFS. And this year.
And Dorian Finney-Smith. My thought was, what if you said, hey, we'll send this to Phoenix, we'll send this and make Miami flush? Miami obviously had interest. The reason that it all came out, just hear me out. The reason that it all came out is because they obviously had interest in a Memphis deal. Okay? That's why Jimmy Butler had to go out of his way, not once, not twice, but 3 different times, had to say, no, right? Because there obviously was like, hey, Memphis has got these assets, they've got these picks, and here is a deal that could take place. So if Miami has interest in what Memphis has, And Phoenix, I can't speak to it, but let's say they do have interest in getting in the Jimmy Butler business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, Miami can still get flush. Phoenix can get their guy, and Memphis gets their guy.
What guy does Memphis get in this
Kevin
cockamamie
Durant.
scenario? You've got Kevin Durant. So why would Phoenix be like, let's get out of the Kevin Durant business and get in the Jimmy Butler business? Why?
Because they're average.
I guess anything is possible. I guess
No,
anything
no,
is possible
no.
in today's NBA.
No.
But that
And they
makes
would
no
al-
sense from a Phoenix standpoint.
No, and they would also get first round picks in the future, which they need
for
for
they
their
have
future.
literally zero because they
Right.
use them to get Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. And
So
there's
you're
no
not
trade
just talking
clause.
about just getting Jimmy Butler. You'd be talking about getting Jimmy Butler,
and picks.
which is going to
And
be
what does
cheaper.
Miami get out of it? Why am I even going down this stupid road with you? This is ridiculous.
I'm trying to come up with deals.
This is ridiculous. Do you know what? Like low key, this is something that I've not heard anyone say, but I'm sure someone has said that no one has said about this whole entire process and information sort of like dissemination. No one's talking about the fucking Super Bowl. Dick, who's even playing in the Super Bowl? It's this Sunday, right?
It'll crank up at the end of the week.
Bro, I saw a picture from New Orleans that had like Eagles and Chiefs fans in it. And I was like, oh, they are having the Super Bowl on Sunday. Like nothing, not nothing in my algorithm, in my news feed.
You're right.
Like nothing is about the Super Bowl. Nothing.
Because, I mean, that's how big that Doncic trade was, though. If we did not have the Doncic trade, it's not like the Fox trade would be taking over your algorithm. It's all surrounding. It is the most, but in fairness, it is the most shocking trade in NBA history, which is a league that's been around over 75 years. We've never had anything this crazy happen.
I can't wait to look back on this in 4 years. Because there might be a world in which we're like, Nico kind of called it. You know what I mean? Or it could be like the 22nd banner in the crypto center.
No.
Does Luka Doncic win a championship for the Los Angeles Lakers? I'd say yes.
I mean, I think
I'd say
against
yes.
that would be, I would say betting against anything Luka is capable of is a bad bet. We know that guys, I say this 1,000 times. You typically win when you're 27, 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
Even the best of the best. All of them. Jordan, LeBron, Curry, Jokic, go back through. They're generally that age. This guy has already been to the NBA Finals, and he is 25. He's not even to the age when everybody wins.
Here's a question for you that I just thought of this now. Does this trade extend LeBron's career? I could see his career being longer because of having Luka Doncic on his team. He does not need to be I am the entire offense. He doesn't. He doesn't need to work as hard. He doesn't play defense outside of the playoffs in 4 years.
The interesting thing, I think, is that the last jersey he ever wears?
Yes.
Because this is now a Luka Doncic operation. The whole goal, and Rob Pelinka even talked about this when they talked about it, the whole goal is now building out around Luka.
Yeah.
This has
LeBron James has never been expendable in his career until Sunday morning. He has never been expendable, ever.
Correct.
He has been essential for every team he has been on until now.
So what I'm saying is, forget the whole. He has already said he's going to be a Laker, and he's got that no trade. So I'm talking about when this contract is done. If you are right, and this extends it, and he does even play longer, is there a chance he ever wears a uniform other than?
I don't think so.
The Lakers.
I think that they.
But we would admit that the chance is much greater now.
Yes.
Than it would if there ever was a chance that we would see LeBron in a uniform other than Los Angeles. That the chance is much greater now because we know
disagree with
their
that.
future is Luka.
I think LeBron is smart enough to know I think LeBron is very realistic about his title contention and chances. And I think that he, in his heart of hearts, knows in September of the last 2 years that he was not contending for a title. And I think now he wakes up and says, we have a title contending team. And I think that they will not be, they're not going to go to the Western Conference Finals this year, but with some roster construction over an offseason, they will be one of the handful of teams that you could see hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy next season. They will. I didn't feel like that this September. Did you?
I do not think in the app again. Let's let the next 48 hours play out.
Sure.
Let's let the next 48 hours play out because they've got to get some frontline stuff. If they, in the absence of them getting frontline stuff, they do not have an opportunity.
Who do you Time Lord? Like who Valanciunas? Vucevic? Like what are they going to get?
Yeah, I know.
Those are the only three that really make sense. Do you trade Austin Reeves? What about the fact that
he's certainly a much more expendable piece today than he was prior to you attaining
absolutely.
Luka Doncic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And
so
what about
if there was ever a chance,
your nemesis, the man that you hate so much, Kirk Goldsberry?
I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. I love Kirk Goldsberry.
You hate him so much.
I listen to, you know what?
I hate to his Kirk Goldsberry.
I love Kirk so much that I listened to his podcast with Bill twice.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. And I rewound it every time he spoke just so I could hear what he said again.
He reported that the deal was bigger.
I know.
That there was more on the table headed in the Mavericks' direction, but Pelinka convinced Nico that the price was too high because of the concerns about conditioning. Can you imagine that?
No, it's one of those, and I know that Kendrick has called Drake the master manipulator, but that title might have been taken away from Rob Pelinka because it's one of those things where, he speaks with forked tongue. This sweet talking guy has now played into all of your, like, he's one of those guys that could be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. This guy, you know what? Now the more you talk and the fact that you're even willing to get rid of him, Nico.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of freaks me out a little bit, and I talk to everybody around here and they're like, hold on now. If Nico wants to get rid of him, there's got to be something there. And he's like, you know me and I know you. And look, Nico, this is like a real risk for me. Like this is a real, like you have convinced this guy, like you're the master manipulator.
My career is on the line.
That you're taking the risk.
Yes.
Because he's,
sorry, I just can't part with that 2031 pick for Luka Doncic.
Or
need
Dalton
that
Connect.
pick when you have Luka Doncic. When you have Luka Doncic, that's a 27th pick in the draft. That's what that is.
Crazy.
It's
truly
we've
crazy.
Got a potential first ever three-peat in the NFL. We've got Taylor Swift involved, and no one is talking about the Super Bowl. No one. None of my friends have mentioned the Super Bowl since Sunday. Nobody.
I got one text about the Super Bowl last night, and it was House, and it was about prop bets. That was it. That was it. I'm dead serious. So he's true. Hey,
I love House.
He's amazing. But yeah, Joe House, and it was a prop bet text. Other than that, that's the only person that has mentioned the Super Bowl to me.
But what you haven't mentioned is the prop bet was how many times Luka Doncic's name will be mentioned during the Super Bowl broadcast. Because I'm taking the over on that. It's going to be more than one.
I swear to God, it was Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals. There's a freebie for everybody else.
There you go. Over 1.5 field goals?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll take it. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. God, and this is nuts.
There's your Super Bowl talk.
Dude, there was a report that the Warriors inquired about every All-Star. So someone explain this to me. Chris Vernon, because I'm old enough to remember 2 weeks ago when Draymond and Steph Curry were going on and on about you would never make a drastic move to improve yourself now, and you have to think about the long-term health of the franchise, and making a win now move is not smart. That's not how we behave here in the Bay Area. We would never do that. And then 2 weeks later, there's a report. They inquired about every All-Star. They didn't inquire about Jimmy Butler. They inquired about every All-Star. Everyone.
The Paul George one was the one I was like, what?
What is it? I've never understood the love for Paul George as a basketball player. I've never understood it.
And I've always, look, you know where I stand on this conversation that we've had for over the last month, where they were coming out saying all those things, and I was yelling into the microphone, What future?
Yeah.
What? Like, you don't even love the one guy, which is Kuminga. Like, you could have him locked up, and you don't want to.
No.
So, Moses Moody, who has been on a tear recently, like, what is this Podzinski? Like, what is this Trace Jackson Day? Like, what is this future that you're building out around? Like, the best of all of them, of your young players, you don't even like
Don't
him.
even want him. And they're inquiring about every All-Star? Everyone?
So I never bought that baloney in the first place. I thought that was a good thing to say. I think that was a good public stance to take. I think it makes everybody probably feel good in your locker room. Mm-hmm. I also thought it was absolute baloney. Because it's like, bro, there's a short timeline on Draymond and Steph. You let Clay walk. You want to get a third guy to give him a chance. They don't have a chance right now. But if you got him a third guy, whether it was LaVine, whether it was Jimmy,
so when you say third
Paul,
guy, you're counting Draymond as the second guy.
Yes, Draymond is still
he's a valuable basketball player, but like
he still makes his teammates better.
Yes, he's a valuable basketball contributor, but I don't think he scored 30 points in 4 years.
But he's also the quarterback of a defense that can be.
Yes.
If you have Draymond Green as the quarterback of your defense and you have guys that are committed to playing defense, that's how they were successful at the beginning of this season. They were defending at a level that was so great that they were able to get wins because of it. And so I do think, like, if you had, but Steph can't be the only guy that everything revolves around.
Do you think the Warriors get a star before the deadline?
Star?
I do not.
I think it's totally possible, dependent on, I mean, you're going to have to find somebody that's in love with Kuminga and love with the idea of signing him.
Well, it does feel like you can kind of get whatever you want from the Bulls, because that I don't understand their involvement in this Fox trade.
I mean, well, look, they look, the Kuminga thing is, and I get it, he's still out with the ankle injury, whatever.
It's hard.
But he's on the mend. Like, you can't lose him for nothing. Like, and if you don't want to be in the Kuminga business, then now is the time that you would get out of the Kuminga business. So, I mean, again, it's about finding someone that you would be able to, I mean, let's just say there is like legs to that and Durant could end back up there. That would be insane.
That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Insane, though.
Why would the Suns do that? What are they going to get? They're going to get Kuminga and Wiggins for Kevin Durant?
I know.
What? What are we doing? No. What are we doing?
Me and you, we agree. We agree on that.
But anything is possible now. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. You mentioned the Blazers earlier, and in that Phoenix loss to the Blazers, Devin Booker broke the Suns scoring record. And I need to I'm sorry it took this long. I need to apologize to Devin Booker.
Wait, we want to restart the show and lead with Devin Booker breaking Walter Davis's record? The Greyhound?
I'm apologizing to Devin Booker.
Why?
Last week, I got. I'm not proud to admit this.
With the 7-year-old sound that we played on the show?
It was 5.
That's my fault. I think I sent that one in. It was nice of you to say I got. That was me who got.
Devin Booker talking about not making the All-Star team. Now, if I were to defend myself, I would say I would imagine Devin Booker's opinion on the matter has not changed greatly.
Yeah, it could have been from yesterday.
But so someone online presented that as current.
Yes.
And we fell for it. So, and it was Devin Booker talking about how the league is all political now and it's all drama. And it used to be when I was a kid, all the best players made the All-Star team and whatever. Now, again, I could defend myself and say, I bet Devin Booker feels exactly the same way, but it was old audio. And I feel badly for attributing that to him in the current day.
I think he'll be okay.
Maybe he does not feel the same way.
I think he'll be okay.
But he didn't make the All-Star team, and he's probably pissed.
There was very brief personal story. I was hosting This Just In because Max was out. And at the very end of the show, on the rundown, they had a quote from Ja Morant about how Michael Jordan would be like a role player in today's game or something, or he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one or something like that.
God.
And it was just in the rundown, and it was in the teleprompter. And literally before I read it in the teleprompter, I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but here's what Ja Morant said. And we did it was like the end of the show. We did like a minute on it. And it was a completely fake quote. Absolutely, completely made up by Ballsack Sports. And it was like, and then I got dragged online about it. It's like, no, if you make a great point, no one ever mentions anything. But if you mess up, oh God. Oh yeah. I mean, just notification after notification about what an asshole I am. And then I don't remember anybody from the production staff or ESPN PR sort of saying, actually, it's not his fault. It's our fault, but it's neither here nor there.
Well, I'm taking blame. I'll even take the bullet for you on this one, and I'll take the blame and say that we should not have played. We attributed Devin Booker with a quote from, unfortunately, years ago. But I will
2019.
I think he probably
different decade. He does feel the same way.
I think he for sure feels the same way.
For sure.
Right. Also, something to monitor, I think, in the next couple of days is what happens with the Bucks. So I'm just going to tell you a little something about last night in the pregame show before Grizzlies Spurs. One of the things we'll run is the walk-off interview from the game prior. And so there was a walk-off interview that was done by my buddy Rob Fisher. And in the background of the walk-off interview for the Sunday night game between Memphis and the Bucks, you can see Giannis, and he is standing like in front of the scorer's table, and he is like, just like with his hands on his hips, and he's just like looking up, like at the, like around the arena and at the
this
scorers.
Is after the game.
Yep, this is after the game, right? So, anyways, we go to break, whatever, and Rob goes, "Did you see?" He's like, "You see on that interview?" He's like, "You see Giannis in the background?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Bro, he stood out there for like 10 to 15 minutes, just like that, after the game."
And this is for those who didn't pay attention, it was a loss to
Sunday
the Grizzlies.
Yes.
Sunday night game, loss to the Grizzlies in Memphis. So he
was like, he just
catatonic from losing, just staring out into space because they lost to the Grizzlies.
Just like, I guess, just totally frustrated.
Well, they didn't play anybody last night against the Thunder. Dame didn't play. Giannis didn't play. Right. Lopez didn't. Like, nobody played. It was odd. It was like one of those games that it's like, you know what? This is a loss. We're just going to lose this one.
And they got trashed by Memphis on Sunday night in the fourth quarter so badly. And that's right after the Spurs had dropped 144 on them on Friday night.
That's right.
I mean, it has been a rough go. It has gone the wrong way really quickly this last heading into the trade deadline. And so they're one to really monitor over the course of the next 48 hours and see kind of what they do.
I wonder. So I think Middleton would be the obvious piece for them to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were waiting because remember Middleton didn't start the season, so they had a slow start, and we're all like, "Well, they don't have Middleton. They don't have Middleton." And then Middleton comes back, and it's like, "Well, that wasn't the problem," because Middleton hasn't looked like an all-star or a contributor to a championship team like he was a few years ago.
So one of the things that has happened as we close this out over the course of we've had to recalibrate everything. Like we've said, if Luka can be traded, anything is possible.
Yes.
Right? I think we would both agree And maybe our answer would have been Luka 3 days ago. The most stunned you could possibly be, you would say Jokic, right?
Giannis.
Giannis.
I think if Giannis is going to leave the Bucks,
no.
It's going to be very loud.
Yeah, but the Giannis thing, look, the expectation that Giannis would be in a different uniform one day is something that people have opined.
Of course.
A lot.
Yeah.
No one has they've never brought up Nikola Jokic ever wearing a different uniform, and neither has he. And to me,
it's more likely that Nikola Jokic just announces his retirement tonight at halftime. You know what I mean? That is much more likely than him being traded.
I'm gonna do the horse thing.
That's I really love horses. Yeah. I want a championship. I'm good. I'm out.
Would you be less surprised if it Curry?
I think Curry would be more surprising than Jokic.
Who would you be more convinced that Shams got hacked if you reported it? I mean, these are things that we now have to consider because of the stupid Luka thing. Nico, you ruined
everything. You've ruined everything. Honestly, it's like I feel like the Bucks are going to trade for Lamar Jackson. Seriously. I feel like they're going to be like, we just landed Lamar Jackson for AJ Green and 2 firsts. And I'd be like, all right. Sure.
I think at the very top, though, it would be Curry and Jokic.
And Jokic.
For 2 different reasons. Obviously, one is the best player in the world.
And we've never seen them in another uniform. I've never seen them in another uniform.
Well, and the other one is, he's forever. The idea that you would trade, that would be, I could understand it, right? End of the career, moving on, getting the most possible value, whatever else, but it's still you never fathom seeing him in anything other than that uniform.
So one thing that came out in that article from Ramona and Tim, shout out to them, is that this started on January 3rd, right? And you're Rob Pelinka. I find it hard to believe that Rich Paul and LeBron James were not made aware until late Saturday night.
You literally said at the beginning of the podcast you believe it, that they didn't know.
I'm just having a thought exercise here. How can you possibly keep this a secret from January 3rd?
Because the second that this gets told to anyone, and in fact, only a friend that you've known for 20 years could you keep this between.
I can't. Honestly. Riddle me this. This has not been discussed enough for my taste. Why in the world did Anthony Davis waive the trade kicker?
To help them get under the...
Oh, that's $6 million? Don't worry about that? The $6 million that I'm contractually owed. Alice, waive that. Don't worry about it.
Because I think that you are not unhappy with your landing spot. That the reason that is involved is because if they move you to a place eventually that you don't want to go, that is your...
$6 million, Chris Vernon. And one thing I hate when people say, well, he's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's made $300 million his career. What's $6 million to him? $6 million is still $6 million. And it's not my fault. It's not my job to manage the counting of the Dallas Mavericks. I don't need to do the casino conglomerate family favors to the tune of $6 million that would be in my pocket. Why did he waive that?
To help them.
It's one thing if you're like
to help them be able
Brady,
to have the best team that they
and
can
you restructure your
around.
contract where you still make all the money, but you just restructure it so it's delayed till later or whatever.
On, bro.
But the $6 million, I'm just going to waive that.
Jacoby, there's always a wink. Bro, we're going to make you right on the other end.
Yeah, he's going to be in some sort of
grocery
store commercial.
You won't ever. You
ain't never
paid
for.
You ain't gonna worry about that $6 million. Bro.
When do you think Rich Paul found out that this was a possibility? You think he doesn't tell LeBron?
I really don't know what to think on that. I really don't.
I think LeBron knew.
Understand.
I'm starting to think that LeBron knew the more that I work this out in my head.
I don't know. I think it's so insane that you would worry about a leak. You know,
but what's a
somebody's
leak
going to tell somebody?
It's interesting.
You just have to have incredible trust with anyone that you give that information to, because it is, again, it's something so serious that the whole world thought it was fake. Mm-hmm. The whole world. Nobody thought that was real. Nobody. And to his stupid point in the press conference, he said, Rob Pelinka thought I was trolling him. My owner laughed at me. That's him saying that. That's not like conjecture. Like, hey, they probably laughed at. Like, he told you that he got laughed at. Crazy. I cannot wait for the next 48 hours because all hell could break loose. For real.
Well,
like that Fox deal is a big deal.
Huge
and
deal.
No one gives a crap.
No, somewhere Trey Murphy's like, I scored 41 points 2 games in a row, and no one gives a shit.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
The Super Bowl is in like 3 days, and no one cares.
I know.
Taylor Swift could be starting for the Eagles at quarterback, and no one cares. No one cares.
Right. And so who knows what whether it's Kevin Durant or it's Jimmy Butler or it's Paul George or it's Zion Williamson.
Anything
or
is on the table.
Brandon Ingram. Who knows? Who
Just
knows?
keep an eye out for Lamar Jackson to the Bucks. You heard it here first on the Mismatch, February 4th, 2025.
Milwaukee or Tampa Bay?
Either one. Either one. Both of them. Who knows?
All right, that's going to do it for today's show. We will obviously reconvene on Friday after what promises to be an unbelievable trade deadline. Thank you to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez, as always. And Jacoby, I'll talk to you later this week.
Peace.